Page 639, 44. The excavation at Mohenjo-daro in Sindh gives us an idea of the sort of city that existed round about 3000 or 2500 BC. Mohenjo-daro was a crowded collection of houses, built mostly arranged along broad streets and narrow lanes, which were laid out according to carefully prepared plans, not just anyhow. A system of sewer and gutters served the city by way of drainage. The houses and articles found in them show that skilled men of various kinds must have been at work in Mohenjo-daro. The carefully planned streets show that there must have been a multiplicity to make and enforce decision. The stars are all suns and shine by their own light. Only the sun looks large to us, and we receive its heat because it is near. But the stars look small because they are so far away. We get no heat at all from them, though we get a little light. It is very hard for us to comprehend how far away from us is the nearest star. The distance is so great that it has to be measured by the rate at which light travels, which is 1,86,400 miles per second. Light requires about 8 minutes to travel from sun to the earth, but it requires more than 4 years for light to reach us from the nearest star. Most of the stars are too far away for astronomers to measure the distance, but you may be interested to learn that the light from the pole star, which reaches your eye, must have started on its journey shortly after the Crimean War. 46. The admiration of the Greeks for bodily perfection is shown by the great popularity of the athletic festivals, especially the one held every 4 years at Olympia, in the northwest of southern Greece. To win a first prize, there was a sure way to become the hero of your city and celebrity of Greece. The Greeks reckoned their dates according to Olympiads, the first of which took place as long as 776 BC according to our system. Thousands of visitors came even from the most distant cities of Greece to camp or lodge near an out-of-the-way temple of Zeus, the greatest of the Greek gods. At this time the Greeks felt that they were all one nation, for warfare ceased when the sacred heralds came round to the cities to give notice to the games. 47. Ashoka made great effort to teach all his subjects the law of duty, to give them an ideal of right living and to ensure justice to all. Accordingly, he drew up a great many edicts telling people what were their duties and their rights. These edicts were carved on huge pillars and set up so that all people might see them. Many people, however, could not read, so it was laid down that the edicts should be read aloud so many times a year. Thus even the most ignorant of Ashoka's subject could learn what was expected of him. In one of these edicts, Ashoka shows his large-hearted love for mankind. All men are my children, he wrote. He also believed in religious tolerance and instructed his people to respect every man's religion. Page 640. 48. Thousands of millions of years ago, our sun was very much bigger than it is today. Moreover, there was no earth and no moon at that time. The sun was a huge star, a vast round ball of glowing gas, rushing alone through space. At last, there came towards it out of space another bigger star. As it passed by, greater swellings began to appear on the sides of the sun ball. As the newcomer came nearer and nearer, these swellings grew bigger and bigger, until they broke right away from the parent sun and went flying off into space. Some of these broken pieces flew farther into space than others. but none were able to escape from the influence of the parent sun. They all remained attached to it by an invisible bond of great strength, and in time cooled and became solid worlds such as Mercury, Earth, etc. 49. In the days of the great King Ashoka, a sense of justice prevented any Indian king from attempting conquest beyond the limits of India. Even the most powerful kings had no desire to conquer foreign people. Indian influence and culture no doubt spread beyond the boundaries of the country of Malaya, Sumatra, Java, Bali, Borneo, Siam, which is Thailand, Cambodia, Indochina. But it was not in the wake of conquering kings and armies dealing death and destruction, but through Buddhist monks, Brahmin priests and Indian merchants that India thought and culture spread through Greater India. Now and then some adventurous Indian youth would marry a local king's daughter and found a dynasty, but Indians did not take advantage of it to become a ruling race, reducing the people to subjugation. 50th. As a mere animal, man would appear to be out of harmony with the rest of the creation. He has not muscular strength sufficient to hold his own against the large animals of the cat kind. Very small animals like rabbit easily overrun him, while his unprotected body leaves him at the mercy of the smallest biting of a stinging insect. As an animal, therefore, man would force or power which he could so use as to become the lord of the creation. The force is known by the name of reason or intelligence. It has its seat in the brain, from where it governs his physical and mental powers. 51. In the past century, life has become more comfortable for man. Tasks which formerly had to be performed slowly and painfully by hand, often in the dim light of candles or little oil lamps, can now be performed simply by the pressing of an electric switch. People come more and more closely into touch with each other, and in a few minutes something that happens in an out-of-the-way corner can be having its effect all round the globe. Even more important are the comforts and conveniences which science has brought into our own homes. We can speak to distant friends by telephone, listen to the wireless, or go to the cinema, and so find constant amusement or instructions. 52. Rabindranath took great pains to gather round him as teachers a group of young men who would know how to teach children in a way which made their subjects alive and interesting. He knew that all knowledge about the world we live in and about the men who live in it is interesting to children, if only it is taught to them in the right way. He wanted to rouse their interest in the subject for its own sake. A boy puts great energy and enthusiasm into his play and hobbies because he is working into something in which he is deeply interested and which he has chosen for himself. Rabindranath wanted to remove all false distinction between work and play and encourage the boys to put the same energy and enjoyment into the activities of their life. 53. Sir Walter Scott was a man honest to the core of his nature, and his determined efforts to pay off the debts to the firm with which he had become involved have always appeared to us as one of the grandest things in his life. When his publishers and printers broke down, ruin seemed to stare him in the face. There was no want of sympathy for him in his great misfortune, and his friends came forward to raise money enough to help him arrange with the creditors. "No," said he proudly, "this right hand shall work it all off. If we lose everything else," he wrote to a friend, "we will at least keep our honor unblemished." Though his health was already becoming undermined by overwork, he went on writing like tiger, as he himself expressed it, until he could no longer hold the pen, and though he paid the penalty of his supreme efforts with his life, he saved his honor and self-respect. Page 641. 54. Different climates and different conditions produce many differences in various groups of the Aryans. Each group went on changing in its own way with new habits and customs. It could not meet the other groups in the other countries as it was cut off from the others. If the people of one country learned something new, they could not tell it to the people of another country. So changes came in, and after some generations, the one Aryan family became split up into many. Perhaps they even forgot that they all belonged to one large family. Their one language became many languages, which seemed to differ greatly from each other. 55. Those who violated the laws of man sometimes escaped unpunished, but the laws of nature can never be broken without paying the penalty. The man who steps over the side of a cliff consciously meets the consequences of his actions swiftly, whether he be a saint or sinner, and the laws of health can no longer be broken with impunity that can the law of gravitation. When effects follow quickly upon causes, we learn the relationship between them readily, and from our childhood avoid actions which produce pain as a burnt child dreads the fire. Ignorance of the law may sometimes be placed in a court of justice in palliation of an offence, but nature accepts no such excuse and decrees a punishment for every crime against her. Page 641. Reflective. 56. None of us is perfect. Every uncivilized thing that we do help to bring suffering to our nation and to the whole world. On the other hand, every civilized thought we think, every noble deed helps to bring nearer the time when the world will be really civilized. A few hundred years ago, people in different countries, even in distant parts of the same country, could behave badly without doing much harm to people in other countries or other parts of their country. If there was a cruel king in a European country, it did not matter much to India or China. But it is no longer so. The new thinking has joined the whole world together. We now live in one world. 57. In every country, people imagine that they are the best. Englishman thinks that he and his country are the best. The Frenchman is very proud of France and everything French. The Germans and the Italians think no end of their countries. This is all conceit. Really, there is no person or country that is not partly good and partly bad. We must take the good wherever we find it and try to remove the bad wherever it may be. We are, of course, most concerned with our own country, India. We should try to keep what is good in us and throw away whatever is bad. If we find anything good in our countries, we should certainly take it. 58. In order that the mind should act with vigor and quickness when required, it is needful that it should have frequent intervals of reaction and rest. It is only thus that its healthfulness can be retained. There is a story about the Apostle John which teaches the lesson in a simple yet forceful manner. A hunter passing his dwelling one day saw the apostle seated at his door, caressing a little bird in his hand with the delight of a child. The hunter was surprised that so devout a man was thus wasting his time. The apostle said to the hunter, "Why do you not keep your bow always bent?" "Because it would soon lose its strength if it was always strung. was the reply. Well, rejoined the apostle, it would be the same with my mind. If I give no relaxation, it would in like manner soon lose its force. 59. From the moment we are born, we cannot live alone. We stand in continual need of the assistance of all around us, our body and soul and spirit. We need clothes which other men make, house which other men must build, food which other men must produce. As children, we need our parents to take care of us in body and mind. As we grew up, we need the care of others. We cannot exist a day without our fellow men. We require teachers to educate us, books and masters to teach us our trade, and when we have learnt it and settled ourselves in life, we require laws made by other men to secure to us our rights and property, and we need friends to comfort us in sorrow and in joy. 60. The progress of a nation is not an easy matter. It depends upon the selfless work and noble sacrifice of a band of worthy sons of the soil. They work without rest and often without praise. While most of the people are busy with their own gain and comfort, these few persons live and die to make the life of their fellow men richer and happier. They do not care for the dangers and difficulties that they meet on the way. Most of them may die, unknown and unseen, yet the rest will advance with their noble work in the teeth of all adverse circumstances. Page 642. 61. It is true that a sense of duty may at times render it necessary for you to do that which is displeasing to your companions. But if it is seen that you have a kind spirit, that you are above selfishness, that you are willing to make sacrifices of your own personal conveniences to promote the happiness of your companion, you will be never in want of friends. You must not regard it as your misfortune, but your own fault when others do not love you. It is not beauty, it is not wealth that will give your friends. Your heart must glow with kindness if you would attract to yourself the love and esteem of those with whom you live. 62. Words, kind or unkind, cost nothing, but they are very powerful factors in giving pleasure or causing misery. They can be used both for good and for evil. The influence of words lasts throughout a lifetime. A home where the people do not use kind words to one another must be like a desert. There are many who think that it is enough if we help the poor materially. It is not necessary to use kind words along with the gifts, but it is a mistake. For a small gift accompanied with kind words is much more acceptable than a large gift bestowed with indifference. 63. Trees give shade for the benefit of others, and while they themselves stand in the sun and endure scorching heat, they produce the fruit by which others profit. The character of good men is like that of trees. What is the use of this body if no use is made of it for the benefit of mankind? Sandalwood, the more it is rubbed, the more scent does it yield. Sugar cane, the more it is pressed, the more juice does it produce. The men who are noble at heart do not lose their qualities even in losing their lives. What matter if whether men praises them or not? To live for the mere sake of living one's life is to live the life of dogs or cows. Those who lay down their lives for the sake of others will surely dwell for ever in a world of bliss. 64. We are all born into and grow up among a family, As we grow up, we will have a whole series of different groups of people with whom we mix. Besides our families and friends, there are the people we work with, the ones we play games with, the members of our club, besides always surrounded by other people and to some extent depend upon them. We depend on the farmer for food, on seamen for the goods they bring from over the sea, on the railways for the food they bring from the shops, on the shopkeepers who sell it, on the police who protect us, and so on. In the world of today, each of us is dependent for some of the things we want on people in other countries. Because of this, there are certain customs and rules laid down about the way in which people should behave towards each other. We should obey these rules just as in playing games. 65. Books are a delightful society. If you go into a room filled with books, even without being taken down from the shelves, they seem to speak to you, to welcome you, and to tell you that they have something inside them that will be good for you, and that you should sincerely try to turn them to good account. As to the books which you should read, there is hardly anything definite that can be said, and a good book that is wiser than yourself will teach you a great many things, if your mind be open to learning. The very wish and curiosity you have shown to read it indicate that you are a person likely to get good out of it. 66. My idea of society is that while we are born equal, meaning that we have a right to equal opportunity, all have not the same capacity. It is in the nature of things impossible. For instance, all cannot have the same height or color or degree of intelligence. Therefore, in the nature of things, some will have ability to earn more and others less. People with talents will have more, and they will use their talent for their purpose. If they use this kindly, they will be performing the work of the state. I would allow a man of intellect to earn more, but the bulk of his greater earning must be used for the good of the state, just as the income of all earning sons of the father who goes to common family fund. They would have their earnings only as trustees. A proverb says, "Hard words break no bones." It means that harsh and unkind words will not hurt us. It is the unkind deed that does the harm. Of course, a word cannot break a bone as a blow can, but we can be hurt in other ways than in having our arms or legs or skulls broken. Unkind words can hurt our heart, and to hurt a person's heart, to wound his soul, to make him sad and unhappy, is often worse than breaking his head. Words have a lot of power, and they can be used to help or to hurt, to wound or to cure, be to bless or to curse. Unlike words can do a lot of harm and cause a great deal of sorrow, while kind words can do a lot of good and cause a good deal of happiness. 68. The noblest deed that have been done on earth have not been done for gold. It was not for the sake of gold that Christ came down and died. The Spartans looked for no reward in money when they fought and died, and Socrates asked for no pay from his countrymen, but lived poor all his days, only caring to make men sound. And there are heroes in our days also who do noble deeds, but not for gold. There is a better thing on earth than gold, a better thing than life itself, that is, to have done something before you die for which good men may honor you and God smile upon your work. 69. There is a right and a wrong kind of contentment. We may be in a condition not quite agreeable to us. Our food, clothing, and other necessities may be deficient. We may possess faculties of mind and body capable of improving our condition. It may be in one way unwise to make the attempt to better ourselves. It may also happen that we are in a situation where real evil press upon us. We may be injuring our health by living in a damp house, or we may have a hole in our clothes which might be easily mended. In these circumstances, it is equally wrong to be contented. If all men from the beginning of the world felt contented as they were and submitted to evils easily remediable, the earth would still have been the residence only to savages. True contentment is to be patient and happy in the situation which is suited to our faculties and means, and under evils which no exertion or care can remedy. 70th. Much of the happiness and purity of our lives depend on our making a wise choice of our companions and friends. If badly chosen, they will certainly drag us down. If well, they will rise us up. Yet many people leave the selection of their friends to chance, though in the choice of a dog or a horse they exercise the greatest care. It is well and right to be courteous to everyone with whom we are brought into contact, but to choose them as real friends is another. Such are only those that render us real help in time of trials and temptations. 71. The student must persevere. Of course, he will meet with difficulties, not one or two or half a dozen, but with a legion. Only as he advances, he will find each easier to conquer than the last, and his continual success will give him a spirit of confidence. Of course, he will meet with difficulties, or where would be the glory or need for study. We do not shower stars and laurels upon a general who marches across an undefended country. Knowledge would lose half its beauty and usefulness if we could acquire it without hard toil. The joy lies in struggle and not in the prize. It is the struggle that carries on the education of the soul and the development of character. Of course, he will meet with difficulties, but there never was a difficulty that could not be conquered. 72. The process of learning may very well be compared to the undertaking of a journey. The learner or student is the journey taker or traveller, just as a traveller has to undergo all the botherations of buying his ticket, booking his luggage, taking care of his things, engaging a car or a cab, and suffering every other item of a tedious journey to reach his destination. So a learner too has to manage his learning affair himself. It is a laborious process, and no one else can do the labor for him, as no one else can do a journey for other. There is no trick or magic in it. Just as a traveller may inquire here and inquire there in case of doubt or difficulty, so can a student take help and advice from guides or teachers whenever in difficulty. But the journey is the passenger's own concern. So is learning of the student and the learner. 73rd. Human beings are designed to do things. To lock up a man and let him do nothing is one of the cruel punishments we can give him. If a man has so much money that he does not need to work, he has to invent work for himself. His fish comes to the table ready to eat if he rings for it, but he buys a boat and goes out in the rain and cold to try to catch fish. He does not need to fight wild animals or hunt the good, but he hunts foxes and deers for the fun of it. If, however, he is an intelligent man, he knows that these activities cannot satisfy him long, and he becomes a member of parliament or a justice of peace or a town councillor or a soldier or a scientist, or take up some other work which is useful to the community. No man can be happy either doing nothing or working for his own amusement.